All right, so chat, today I went outside. A very rare treat for the world, okay? I went outside, rare treat, and I was, went to bring in the trash cans. And so I went out to the street, and I happened to be wearing my hoodie that says Twitch on it, that I did not get for being a Twitch partner. I got it because my uncle went to PAX. And there was a guy across the street talking to a lady across the street, and he's like, "You stream?" And I was like, I've never told, I don't even know if this is my neighbor or visitor. I've never spoken with whoever lives across the street from me. I was like, yeah. It took me a minute to remember what I was wearing and why he said that. And I was like, yeah, I do. And he's like, what game do you play? And so often, if I'm talking to normies, they don't know what Guild Wars 2 is. So I was like, I mostly play RPGs. And he's like, you play Apex? Because when I think RPGs, I think Apex Legends, chat. Yeah, that's what I love to roleplay as a robot. Beat boop. So yeah, I was like, no, I don't play Apex. And he's like, oh, he's like, do you play any shooters? I was like, no, man, I don't do shooters. And he's like, oh, what game do you play? And I was like, I mostly do Guild Wars 2. And he's like, oh, okay. And yeah, I could have said flux capacitor. I could tell he didn't know what I was talking about. Oh no, I phrased it. The way I phrased it, I said, I make most of my living making stuff for Guild Wars 2. And through this whole conversation, the lady that was next to him, she looked bored out of her mind. Like I gotta turn the potato off for this. She was like doing this with her hair and like chewing gum, and she's like, oh my God, we're talking to this nerd. And then when I said I make most of my living, she was like what? And then, you know, she looked at me like I was crazy with that comment. And he's like, oh, do you play on PC? And I was like, yeah, I play on PC. You know, because Guild Wars 2 console version, and it's on the Switch now, you guys. Off common mistake. And he's like, you play on PC? I was like, yeah, I play on PC. And he's like, oh man. And he does this, and he's like, you guys are on top. And a fine howdy do to you too, sir. Okay, I'm going back in there now. He tried to relate to you? Dude, I don't know. It was a weird conversation. That's enough of the outside world for today. Yep, it's like, well, I got my sunshine for the month. Let's go back in. I don't know that I have a story. Oh, crap, I do have a story. My kid swore today. My 8-year-old has said his first swear. All right. I mean, I don't know if this is a good story, but here it is. You can judge. So Gabe comes into the room, and I think I was video editing on the main screen, and on my other screen I had a website open that I waste time on, funnyjunk.com. I often have either a Twitch stream, YouTube, Funny Junk, or Reddit on my other monitor. And if you haven't been to Funny Junk, you're not missing much, but it's just a place people can upload stuff that they think is funny, and other people can leave comments.
A new arrival.
And Gabe walks in, and I don't think anything of it. And he walks up to me, he looks at what I'm doing, he looks at the other monitor, and then he leans in, and he's learning how to read. And he goes, what a f***ing legend. Like, he just drops the F-bomb. And I'm just like slow turn, and yeah, he was reading something on the screen. So he says that, and then I guess he looks at what I'm doing and he gets bored and he just starts to walk out of the room. And I'm like, buddy, don't read my screen. And he's like, oh, okay. And he walks off. And then I'm sitting there for a second and I'm debating, because I could either say, I could reprimand him, or I could say nothing and not draw attention to it. And I was like, if I don't say anything, he might say it again in the future. So I was like, dude, come back. And he comes back. I was like, all right, you're not in any trouble. I know you didn't know, but that word right there that starts with the letter F, and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's a really bad word. And you don't want to say that around anybody else because they'll get really mad. Okay? And he's like, okay. And I'm like, all right, go play. And that was it. That was all I did. I tried to be chill about it. But I gotta tell you, when he just walked into the room and he's in my peripheral and I wasn't really paying attention to him, and then I suddenly hear his 8-year-old voice go, what a fucking legend. I'm just like, you know, it was just like, whoa, my God, what, who, why, when, where, and your mother's gonna kill me all just hit me at the same time. There you go. There's your story. That's today's story. Let's do this. Okay. So let me try to say this properly. Anytime we put my kid to bed, he's always asked really dumb questions because he's trying to buy time. He doesn't want to go to sleep. You know, like that's when you start getting crap like, why is the sky blue? Or like, we're trying to leave the room. And then he'll be like, you know, dad. And like, I'm trying to leave the room and I'm like, what? And he's like, in Minecraft, do you think dogs eat the cats? Like he'll just like, he's very hard trying to think up a question just so to buy more time. So tonight we put him in bed and he's giving mom a hug and I'm waiting my turn and he's like, Mom, do you think there is a machine to put things together in real life? And we kind of look at each other and she's like, I'm sure there is. Like there's machines that melt metal and, you know, mixes metal together, I'm sure, and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, a hammer. That's what I said. I said a hammer. And he goes, no, like 2 living things. And both me and Mom are like, living things? And she's like, no, there's not a machine that puts living things together. Like this kid wanted to make the freaking Chimera from Full Metal Alchemist. And he's like, yeah, living things like, and chat, I'm quoting here, living things like a dog and a car. And 2 things happen at the same time. My wife says, a car's not alive. And I said, son, that's not a machine, that's a traffic accident. And he's like, what? And then, you know, Mom looked at me like, don't detail that, please. Like I was in super minor trouble, but I was supposed to shut up there. It was a weird talk. It was a weird talk. A dog and a car. 2 living things. Would you say you were in the doghouse? I'll see myself out. Yeah, I'll close the door behind you. All right. Earlier I said don't touch the beakers. And somebody said, what about the Bunsen burners? And I had like a flashback. So, Bunsen burners. If anyone here doesn't know what a Bunsen burner is, it's like a tiny, tiny little stove used in labs. Even some high schools have them. It's like a little, you know, spot you would put like a beaker on and it would have a flame underneath and it would heat it up. Maybe make some bubbles, you know, whatever. It's a, you know, there's fire involved, okay? There's fire involved. Now, this is a story from my dad. And my dad told me this, and he was in high school, and they were in science class. And they were in a classroom that was used by multiple classes, like the art were used at one period, science another, social studies, whatever. They're in science class. Now, in the classroom, there was rows, it was like, instead of desk, it was like a long counter was the front row, and then another long counter was the second row, and another long counter was the third row, etc. And there were Bunsen burners, but they were mounted to the table, okay? And they had to light all the Bunsen burners. And I don't know if the teacher wasn't in the room or if the kids took it upon themselves, I don't know. But they did not have enough matches to do it the proper way. So what they decided to do was to light a paper towel on fire, turn on the Bunsen burners, and then, you know, it's like gas, and then run down the line of the counter, like tagging all of them, and try to light all of them at once in one go, and then throw the burning paper towel into the sink at the end of the line. And the sink was clogged, and it was like half full of like water with some paintbrushes floating in it. So that's the plan. So they engage Operation Fireball. And they turn on the burners, and a guy uses one of the last matches to light a paper towel, and he runs down the line, and he successfully lights every burner. And he throws it into the sink, which promptly explodes in a pillar of fire. Now, I'm gonna pause here, and if this were a movie, we would rewind back in time to like 2 periods beforehand. That sink was not clogged with water. It was clogged with turpentine, a lovely chemical that is incredibly flammable and is used by art classrooms across the United States. Whoop, back to normal time. So the turpentine explodes, and the sink is this steel mother mucker. And it basically makes a shaped blast, which goes straight up right through the ceiling tiles, like a pillar of fire, a mini biblical event happening inside of this high school, and just blasts right through a chunk of the ceiling. Alarms go off, evacuation is had, stuff like that. You know, they get in huge trouble and all this stuff. Fortunately, no one upstairs was roasted or anything like that. But yeah, in one quick movement, they destroyed the science class. They Wreck-It Ralph. Like it is toasting. Right? Yeah. You mentioned Bunsen burners, and I thought of my dad and his classmates destroying the science room.